Christmas dinner, my grandfather, Arthur Hale, slid 3 white envelopes across the table and said, "A gift." The forks froze. My mother, Denise, snorted, "Oh, please, it's play money." My father, Gregor, added, "He just wants us to beg." I smiled, pocketed mine, and felt something rip, like family love tearing on a quiet seam. Ever been mocked for showing respect? Ever watched people you love confuse cruelty with humor? I heard the line that still bruises, "Know your station, Lena." I didn't open it. I just sat with the burn in my throat and the kind of silence that tastes like metal. If you were me, open it or walk away. Drop your take in the comments. And if this hits a nerve, subscribe so you don't miss what came next. The next morning, the banker said, "Your deposit cleared, Ms. Rowan." Everything else shattered. The morning after Christmas dinner, my phone lit up with an unknown number while I was sketching a client's living room. I almost let it ring out. I'm glad I didn't. A calm voice said, "Good morning, Ms. Rowan. Your deposit has cleared." For a second, I didn't breathe. My pencil stopped. Cleared. The exact amount on the check my grandfather, Arthur Hale, slid across the table last night while my parents, Denise and Greg, laughed like cruelty was a party trick. My heart did this weird double thud. You know the feeling when your brain's trying to catch up to your eyes? That. Because last night they called it play money. They whispered, "He just wants us to beg." And then the dagger. "Know your station, Lena." I didn't open the envelope at the table. I said thank you. I put it in my coat pocket. I treated it like a real gift because the man who gave it to me is real. The bank's call told me I wasn't wrong. I stared at my banking app like it might suddenly reverse itself. No reversal, no pending, just cleared. And that clarity hurt because it meant something else too. If mine cleared, what happened to theirs? So when my phone buzzed again, Mom's name, I already knew. She didn't say hello. She hissed, "Did you talk to your grandfather today?" I said no. She said, "The bank says our checks were stopped." Then her voice went small and poisonous. "They said yours went through." I swallowed the lump in my throat and said the only true thing. "I deposited it," she snapped. "He's playing favorites, punishing us for being successful." Successful? For the cameras, maybe. For the charity brunches. For the Instagram photos staged in borrowed cars. But successful at respect? At basic decency? Not last night. I could feel heat crawl up my neck. I tried to keep my voice level. "It was a gift, Mom." Dad called next. "No sugar." "You could have told us," I said. "Told you I cashed a gift?" He said. "Don't be clever with me. He's old. He doesn't know what he's doing." Old. That word hit me like a slap. The man still sharp enough to read me with one glance. The man who built quiet wealth and never needed to brag. The man who hugged me a second longer at the door and whispered, "Keep it safe." He knew exactly what he was doing. And here's the part that twists. I wasn't excited about the money. I was sick with dread. Because the moment something becomes real, people show you who they are. My parents showed me fast. Blame first, shame second. Then the oldest weapon, rewrite the story. "He's manipulating you. You embarrassed us. You should have told us." If you're listening right now, has anyone ever made you feel guilty for accepting a kindness? Drop a comment. I want to know I'm not alone. Grandpa called that evening, quiet fire crackling in the background. "Did the bank contact you, sweetheart?" His voice steady. I said yes. He said, "Good. Don't worry about your parents. Some lessons take longer to learn." I could hear the weariness under his calm, like he'd been carrying a heavy thing for years and finally set it down. Do you know that sound? Relief with edges. I wish I could tell you I felt triumphant. I didn't. I felt haunted. Because money can clear overnight, but respect, once you overdraft that, doesn't refill easy. I went to bed with the envelope back in my drawer and my stomach in a knot. If you were me, would you have told them? Would you have kept quiet like I did and taken the storm? Tell me in the comments. And if this hits a nerve, hit like so this story reaches someone who needs it. The next day, an envelope arrived in the mail. Arthur's handwriting, neat, unwavering. One line, Dinner, Saturday, 7 p.m. No explanation, no apology, just a date and a time. My parents blew up the family chat. Mom, we're going to straighten this out, Dad. He's lost it. Me? I read that neat black ink and felt the ground shift. This wasn't about a check anymore. This was about a boundary, about the cost of laughing at the wrong thing. So I ironed a plain black dress, put my hair back, and promised myself I'd stop trying to earn love I already respected. Saturday, 7 p.m. I'd find out exactly what cleared and what didn't. The house looked the same. Wreath on the door, warm light in the windows, that hearth smell people try to bottle and sell. But the air? Tight, charged. I stepped into the dining room and saw 3 place settings again. Gold-rimmed plates, polished silver. But only 2 faces I recognized like mirrors that make you look smaller. My parents. Denise sitting stiff with a smile like it was glued on crooked. Greg pretending to scroll his phone, not reading a thing. Slow footsteps. Arthur entered with a folder of papers. He didn't clear his throat. He didn't apologize. He set the papers down, looked at each of us, and said, "I won't keep you long." Mom tried a laugh that cracked on the first note. "Dad, this isn't funny. The teller said you stopped our checks." He nodded once. "I did." Silence is heavy when truth sits in it. Dad stood a little taller, that CEO posture he keeps for conflict. "If this is some kind of test, it's cruel." Arthur didn't flinch. He looked at me, then back at them. "Cruel would be letting you keep thinking respect is optional." Mom shook her head. "We were joking." He cut in, gentle, but like a door closing. "When you laughed at a gift I offered, you laughed at me. You laughed at the years that built it." She tried to smile. "We thought," he said. "Exactly. You thought." Then he turned to me. "She felt." I didn't breathe. He was drawing the line we all pretended wasn't there. He opened the folder. Bank statements, printed that morning. He slid one toward each of us. "You'll find your names there." Dad stared at the numbers like they owed him something. "You can't just cut us off," he said, voice tight. Arthur leaned back, not angry, resolved. "I already have." That's when the mask slipped. Mom's voice went small and sharp. "You're rewarding her for doing nothing." And I heard the second dagger of the week. Doing nothing. I wanted to say I did the only thing that counted. I respected the giver. I treated the gift like it wasn't a prop for an audience we don't even like. But I stayed quiet. He didn't need my defense. Arthur's voice cracked like thunder then, just once. "She did everything. She listened. She respected. She didn't laugh." The room swallowed the echo. He softened again. "I'm transferring full control of the trust and the properties to Lena. Daniel will guide you through the fun paperwork." Mom's face collapsed into tears. Not the kind that asks for help, the kind that demands you feel guilty. Dad gripped the chair back until his knuckles went white. "You'll regret this," he said. Arthur's reply was clean as glass. "No, son. I regret raising a man who values appearance over honesty." If that line hit you in the chest, you're not the only one. Comment honesty, so I know you heard it too. He slid a folder across to me. My hands shook. If you think I felt rich, you don't know me. I felt seen and terrified at the same time. Seen because someone finally named the room. Terrified because when someone hands you responsibility, you can't pretend you're small anymore. There's no hiding in the back row. Arthur stood. "Dinner's in the oven," he said. "You're welcome to stay and eat if you can still sit at this table honestly." That sentence landed like a gavel. Now I know who's real. He didn't say it out loud yet, but the verdict was already in the walls. Dad grabbed his coat. "Unbelievable manipulation," he muttered and headed for the door. Mom sniffed, collected her bag, and followed. The front door slammed. The house settled. You could hear the clock in the hall counting out a future none of us had planned. Arthur returned with 2 bowls of soup like we were just 2 people trying to warm up on a cold night. We ate mostly in silence, the spoon on porcelain, the wind outside. Then he said, "You didn't cash it for the money, did you?" I said no. I just didn't want to disrespect you. He nodded. That's what I thought. Here's the hook you didn't see coming. I didn't feel victorious. I felt bereaved, like someone died. Maybe the version of family I kept trying to sell myself. And if you're feeling that for me right now, hit like, share this with one person who needs it, and tell me in the comments, if loving people requires you to laugh at what's sacred, is it still love? He walked me to the door and placed a second envelope in my hand. Unsealed. One line, in clean black ink. Money changes hands every day. Respect only once. I stood on the porch under a sky that didn't care and felt something lift. Not the weight, just the lie. A few days later, I sat in a quiet office that smelled like cedar polish and old paper. Daniel Kerr, the lawyer, spoke in a voice people use when they know you're breathing through something. He walked me through the transfer details. Trust instruments, property titles, timelines, tax implications. I signed my name where he pointed. He wasn't selling me a dream. He was handing me a job. Mr. Hale asked me to make sure you understand this isn't a reward, he said. It's a responsibility. I nodded. I already understand. Do you ever say words your chest answers before your mouth does? That. Because here's the truth they don't post on luxury real estate photos. Money doesn't fix character. It exposes it. Mine, theirs, yours, all of it. You don't change when you inherit. You get louder. If that line makes sense, drop a louder in the comments so I know you're with me. On the drive home, the city looked exactly the same. Coffee shops, buses, a guy walking a dog in a sweater. But everything was different because I couldn't unknow what I knew. My phone stayed quiet, except for one text from Mom. Hope you're happy. Read that again. Not, are you okay? Not, we should talk. Just, hope you're happy. If that hits a bruise in you, I'm sorry. I blocked the number for one afternoon just to breathe like a normal human. I went to see Arthur the next evening. He was reading by the fire, glasses catching the light. We talked about my next project and his garden plans for spring. We didn't talk about the transfers, and I loved him for that. He asked if I'd eaten. I hadn't. He sliced an apple, handed me half, and said, "A check is just paper, Lena, until you decide what it's worth." I tucked that line somewhere. I keep emergency oxygen. Now, the part people don't see, the grief. I missed my parents while being furious at them. I replayed every little sneer. Know your station, Lena. You're doing nothing. He just wants us to beg. Those phrases don't just bruise, they echo. In the shower, in the car, over a sink full of dishes. If you've got echo phrases, you're not weak, you're human. Tell me one in the comments if you're brave. I'll read every single one. At night, I lay awake thinking about tables, what you bring, what you take, what you mock. And here's where responsibility shows up with muddy boots. I started drafting a plan. Keeping staff on properties, funding repairs that had been postponed, setting aside monthly support for Grandpa's causes, hiring an accountant who answers calls, not just emails. I told Daniel we'd do audits twice a year. If I'm going to be trusted, I'm going to be accountable. Then there's the public part. People sniffed around. So proud of you! With that tone that means, how much? My old classmates texted. A cousin I haven't seen in 5 years sent a heart emoji and a link to her small business. It's funny how love multiplies when numbers do. I kept my circle small. I learned to say, I'm not discussing finances, and let the silence work. Try it. It's a boundary that doesn't need an apology. I wish I could tell you my parents came around right away. They didn't. My mother posted a story about betrayal with a Bible verse she doesn't believe. My father told an uncle that I was being handled. There's a special kind of rage you feel when the people who raised you decide a narrative you didn't consent to. But here's the hook that kept me stable. I don't need their version of me to be true for mine to be real. If that helps, hit share so it helps someone else. Weeks passed. Snow turned to slush. Slush turned to rain. I checked roofs, signed vendor contracts, scheduled a meeting with a local mentor who runs affordable housing projects, because I want this to mean something more than I want to fight. That's not the story. The story is a man who drew a boundary and a girl who decided not to laugh at it. The story is that respect costs. Sometimes it costs family dinners and the illusion of harmony. Sometimes it costs the version of you that survived on crumbs. Before I left Arthur's house last Sunday, I stood by the door and finally asked the question that had been gnawing at me. Did you plan it like this? He smiled a little. No, he said. I planned to be kind. The rest planned itself. If that doesn't make you exhale, I don't know what will. So here's my last ask. If you've ever been punished for basic respect, like this video, drop a comment with one line you're done swallowing. And subscribe if you want the next chapter, because there's more. Not about money, about rebuilding, about the cost of not laughing. And if anyone tells you to know your station, tell them gently, I do. It's called dignity. Here's where I land. That night wasn't about a check. It was about who treats gratitude like oxygen and who treats it like a costume. My grandfather offered a gift. I treated it like it mattered. They laughed. I didn't. And when the bank said cleared, something else cleared too, the fog I'd been living in. I won't pretend it didn't hurt. The silence after the family chat? It felt like a door locking from the other side. But I learned this. Money reveals the story. Respect writes it. My job now isn't to be the favorite. It's to be responsible, to show up, to prove that dignity can pay its own bills. Still, I keep replaying it. Was I supposed to warn them? Apologize for cashing a gift? Keep the peace and lose myself again? Be honest with me. Am I in the wrong? If you were in my seat, fork frozen midair, what would you have done? If this hit you anywhere tender, tap like so it reaches someone who needs it. Drop your take in the comments. I'm reading all of them tonight. And if you want the next chapter, how I'm using this to build something real, go ahead and subscribe. Not for the drama, for the rebuild, for the proof that respect, once chosen, can change a whole life.